Okay, so this is your study guide for your review. First thing I'm going to do is go through all of the questions. Next thing I'm going to do is do the problems. Okay, number 1, R is 24, T is 66, S is 90, and U is 9.8 feet. Okay, pretty easy. They're congruent, so you should be able to match them up. Number 2 is 11, 8 inches equals x minus 3. So you can solve for x. Number 3, our first proof. We have BD bisects angle ABC given. So angle ABD is congruent to CBD by definition of a bisector. We're given that AB is congruent to BC given. BD is congruent to BD by reflexive. So the triangles are congruent by side angle side. And AD is congruent to CD by CPCTC. Okay? So see how I highlighted 3 things? I was showing those 3 things are congruent to each other. Okay, therefore you can say the triangles are congruent. Number 4 is congruent. Number 5 is proportional. Number 6, this last one is not like the others. Their angles are both 44 degrees, so this would actually not be a 90-degree triangle. Okay, let's turn it over. Number 7 is side angle side, so the triangles are congruent. ABC is congruent to CDA. Number 8, it's by hypotenuse leg, because you have a right triangle and you have a hypotenuse and a leg. So BAD is congruent to CAD. And yes, you do need to have this congruency statement. I believe it says in the directions that you need it. All right, number 9 is side, side, side. Triangle WLR is congruent to triangle RXW. Number 10 is not congruent. There's not enough information. Number 11 is side angle side, and its triangle XAC is congruent to triangle QAC. Somebody open the door, please. All right. Number 12, X equals 25, Y equals 23. I'm in the middle of recording this. X equals 25, Y equals 23. Number 13, it is triangle ABC is similar to triangle GHI. The scale factor is 1.25. If we go 8 over 6.4, 17 over 13.6, that looks like 136, but it's 13.6. And 20 over 16, we get 1.25 for all of them. Okay. Number 14, X, the height of the tree, whatever. It's kind of faded on mine, but it should be 28 feet. 28 feet. Number 15, they are not parallel because 2 over 4 does not reduce to the same thing as 3.75 over 5 reduces to. Okay, we're going to turn it over. Number 16 is 5.3 repeating, or 5 1/3. You could say 5.3 repeating too. It's the same thing. The next one is 3.4. 3.4. 17, angle A is congruent to angle D. Angle B is congruent to angle F. Angle C is congruent to angle E. AB over DF equals BC over FE. CA over, which equals CA over ED. So triangle ABC is similar to triangle DFE. Number 18, angle U is congruent to angle C. Angle Y is congruent to angle Z. Angle X is congruent to angle X. CY over UZ equals XY over XZ, which equals CX over UX. So triangle UYX is similar to triangle CZX. Okay, I think we should probably take a minute and do each of these proofs out together. Okay, instead of me just going over the answers, let's actually do them. Okay. Remember, we want statements on one side, reasons on the other. We've got XO is congruent to OZ, and we've got XY is parallel to YZ. So I'm going to write down my first thing. XO is congruent to, OZ. Shh. Given. Then I've got XY is parallel to WZ. That's given. And if we know something is parallel, what do we know about them? We do not know the sides are equal. If something's parallel, cut by a transversal, we have alternate interior angles in this case. Okay? So we know angle YXO is congruent to angle WZO by alternate interior angles. Okay, step 4. We know angle XOY is congruent to angle ZOW by what? These two angles are congruent to each other by what, guys? Nope. These two angles are congruent to each other by vertical angles, guys, vertical angles. Angle is a reason why something's similar. These are vertical angles. And then I've got angle, side, angle, so I've got triangle OZW is congruent to triangle OXY by angle, side, angle. Questions about this proof? Okay, let's look at number 20. Okay, let's look at number 20. We're given that XZ bisects WXY. What does bisect mean? Cut in half. So this angle is cut in half, so that means these two angles are congruent to each other. Okay? And then it says WX is congruent to XY. What else up here is congruent? XZ. What is that congruent by? Reflexive, right? And then how are these triangles congruent to each other? By what? Side, angle, side. Good. Okay, so we're going to have our statements and our reasons. Statement number 1, XZ bisects angle WXY, that is given. Then we've got angle WXZ is congruent to angle YXZ. Definition of a bisector. Then we've got WX is congruent to XY. Given. If you had the two givens next to each other, I would not mark it down. I just don't like it as much. I want to prove something is congruent before I move on. Step 4. What's going to be my next step, guys? I've got, these are given, these are congruent by definition of a bisector. These are congruent. What else do I have? XZ is congruent to XZ by what again? Reflexive. Okay. And then number 5, I've got 3 things are congruent to each other, so I could say triangle ZWX is congruent to triangle ZYX by side, angle, side. Any questions about number 20? About that proof? Okay. Let's move on to 21. Okay. For 21, we've got WX is congruent to YZ, and we also know that they're parallel. What do we know if something's parallel? What have we got? It's parallel, it's cut by a transversal, it's what? Alternate interior angles in this case. Sometimes they're corresponding, sometimes they're alternate interior. So I'm going to put a little AIA up here so I remember. What else do I have that's congruent up here? I've got a side, I've got this angle. What else? ZX is congruent to ZX by reflexive. So why are these triangles congruent? Okay, but this doesn't say triangles are congruent at the end. What does it say? An angle is congruent to an angle. So what am I going to have to use? CPCTC. Okay, so I've got statements on one side, reasons on the other. Who wants to say, what do I do first? What am I going to write down first, guys? What given? The whole thing? Because that's fine. Okay, WX is congruent to ZY, and WX is parallel to ZY. Given. What do I do next? The alternate interior angles, right? So I go angle WXZ is congruent to angle YZX by alternate interior angles. Okay, good. What do I do next? I've got this done. What else do I have listed on there? The reflexive. So what's reflexive? What side is reflexive? ZX is congruent to ZX, right? By reflexive. Okay, what do I put next? So I need to put side angle side, so I can say triangle WXZ is congruent to triangle YZX by side angle side. Okay, what do I put next? By what? CPCTC. Good. Could I have put in these givens on two separate lines? If you wanted to. Still be marked right either way. Questions about any of that for number 21? Okay, we did 19, 20, and 21 together. Do you guys have other ones that you want to look at? Do we want to look in more detail? Yes. 16. Okay. 16. Now remember, if these two sides are parallel, these sides and these sides must be proportionate. Okay? So 6 over 8 has to equal 4 over x. So we go 6 times x is 6x. 8 times 4 is 32. Divide by 6, and x equals 5.3 repeating. Okay, do you want me to do the other one? I feel like this is the one that messes everybody up, and I'm not sure why. Okay, so you guys see we've got this little triangle right here, right? And you guys see that we have this bigger triangle here, right? Yeah? Okay, so I say it's easier for me to remember if I put the little triangle over the big triangle. So I think of it that way. All right, so I'm going to look on the hypotenuse because I have a number for both of those. So what am I going to put on top? Over? Okay, equals. Now, I'm going to look over here. I don't have anything on the bottom, so I've got to look here. Which one's easier, the bigger one or the smaller one? I think the one in orange is pretty clear that it's 17, right? So which one does that go? To the top or bottom?
Bottom.
Good. Goes on the bottom because it's the bigger one. Okay, now the harder part. What goes on the top? X is not the whole length of this blue triangle right here. 17 minus X. Good. And then we are going to cross multiply. 16 times 17 is 272. And then 20 times 17 times negative 2, you can put it like this first if you want. 20 times 17 minus X, and then know you're going to distribute. So we get 272 equals 340 minus 20X. Everybody following me so far? If I'm going too fast, you're going to let me know, right? Now I'm going to subtract 340 from each side. And I'm going to get negative 68 equals negative 20X. I'm going to divide by negative 20. And I get X equals 3.4. Okay, any others on this back page? Do you guys want me to do 17 or 18? Or you guys feel pretty good about those? Okay. Anything on this next page? Solving for X and Y, figuring out which ones are similar. The tree problem. Or this one down here with parallel lines. Any of those? Yes. The tree one? Sure. Okay. Now, you're deciding what you're going to put over what. So we're going to make the tree X, right? We don't know what the height is, so we can just make it X. Now we can put the person height, we can put person over tree, or we can put height over mirror distance. Which one do you guys want to do? Person over tree or height over mirror distance? Person over tree. Okay, so here's my person, 6. Here's my tree's height, X. What's the distance between my person to the mirror? What's the distance between the person to the mirror? There we go. What's the distance between the tree and the mirror? 14. Now I'm just going to cross multiply. Right? Go 6 times 14. We get 84 equals 3x. Divide by 3. X equals 28 feet. Others? Yes. 13? 13 is not fun because you have to do it more than a couple times. I usually just choose 2 out of the 3 sides to work with first, just to see. So I'm going to choose these 2 triangles first. I'm going to see 8 over 2. Is that going to be the same as 20 over 20? So I know that 8 over 2 equals 20 over 20. Those do not equal the same thing because 4 does not equal 1, right? So those don't work. So now I'm going to take these 2 and put them together. So I'm going to say, okay, 8 over 6.4, is that the same thing as 20 over 16? So 8 divided by 6.4 gives me 1.25. 20 divided by 16, that gives me 1.25. Now I'm just going to check the last one just to make sure. I'm going to go 17 over 13.6. And I get 1.25. So I know triangle ABC is similar to triangle GHI, and the scale factor is just what they all reduce to, which is 1.25. Okay, so that's my final answer there. Others? 12, or anybody have questions about any of these? Trying to figure out which ones were congruent? Anybody have questions on the stuff on the front? Congruent triangles. You guys want to go over the proof in more detail? Any of these? The proof?
No.
You're good? 1 through 6 we're good with. 7 through 11, number 12. $15, sure. 15, I'm just trying to prove if they're parallel. If they're parallel, then 2 over 4 will equal 3.75 over 5. So if we go 2 divided by 4, we get 0.5, right? 3.75 divided by 5 gives me 0.75. So we say not parallel. Others? How comfortable you guys feel about this test? You gonna ace it tomorrow? Yeah? What are we nervous about? Are we nervous about the similar stuff, the proofs, any of it? You guys are feeling overly confident and great about all this? Okay, so your job tonight is to just study this. You have all the right answers now. You should have corrected all the right answers. You can always look at my website if you feel like you missed something. Come ask me. Remember, we're available during lunch. Yes, Anna? Number 12, sure. Okay, number 12 is just matching the sides with the sides. So I know 5 and 10 go together, and let's solve x first. So we'll go 12 over x minus 1. 5 over 10 equals 12 over x minus 1. So then we cross multiply. 10 times 12 is 120. 5 times x minus 1 is 5x minus 5. We add 5 to both sides. We get 125 equals 5x. We go 125 divided by 5. And that's how we got x equals 25. Now we're going to use the same thing, except we're going to go 5 over 10 again. But this time we're going to look at 13 over y plus 3. We cross multiply again. We get 130 equals 5y plus 15. We subtract 15 from both sides. And we get 115 equals 5y. We divide by 5 and we get y equals 23. Yeah. Because they both go together. Because I put the 5 on top. So if I put the 5, like the 10 on the top and the 5 on the bottom, I would have put x minus 1 over 12. They just have to be like the same triangle has to have the same things on top, right? Right, 5 and 12 come from the same triangle, so they go. Others? You could have also, just to be clear, I could have gone 5 over 12 equals 10 over x minus 1. And I would have gotten the same results. You just can't have, like, if you have 5 on the top, you can't have x minus 1 on the top as well, because they're not corresponding sides. They don't match each other. Others? Okay, gone over a lot of these. You got a lot to study from. I'm going to stop this now. Everybody should be going over at least one problem that they're nervous about. Try it one more time right now in class.